Ho, ho, ho.
Back, boys.
We're back.
We're back, baby.
It's Christmas. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah, it's 21st of December, 2023.
We just graduated, kind of.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I had the last ever thing as an undergrad.
Yeah.
Thesis presentation. So, well, we're back with season 2.
Hell yeah, baby.
And what are we reading today, Nick?
We're reading something Christmassy. We're reading J.R.R. Tolkien's, what is it, Letters to Father Christmas? Letters from Father Christmas. And this was compiled by, I think it's maybe like a nephew of his.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah. The author, well, it's basically, yes, edited by him.
So what's the premise of this book?
This book is a collection of letters. I wouldn't say it's a premise, but it's a collection of letters that Tolkien wrote for his children between I think 1920 and 1943. And so every Christmas he would write a few fictional letters from Father Christmas, and he'd also encourage his children to write letters as well. So there'd be some kind of like back and forth, and it's. We were kind of like deciding we wanted to, we're coming to the end of our schoolwork and things are kind of died down, so do some kind of Christmas thing because it's the time. Looked at a couple of BuzzFeed lists, and we've already done Dickens, so let's do Tolkien. And yeah, it's quite interesting. You can see that he really loves fantasy and really loves creating fictional worlds and stories. And yeah, if people like Tolkien, then it's probably worth looking at, kind of see something that's a bit different flavor.
And this is going to be much before his well-known works, like Lord of the Rings and all that.
Yeah, I don't know when they came out.
I read his Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is like at the very beginning of his writing career. So I'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is like early Tolkien, and also him talking to his children. So this was not something that was intended to be published.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very light and very charming read.
Yeah, it's quite fun. It's so the book itself is it includes like scans of each individual letter and the envelope as well, with like a transliteration, that's the wrong word. Transcript, yeah. And you kind of see the things kind of develop as it goes along, sort of introduced to different characters and stuff, and
most letters have a picture attached.
Yeah, some really lovely illustrations
he drew. They're quite cute. Yeah,
and you also kind of get a sense from reading them like how his children are growing as well, which is quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, it's a very light read. There's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about related to it, and
we probably got the same one, but
I think we do. Yeah, there's two things.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think maybe we should kind of give a sort of taste of what it's like.
Yeah, we could ease into it a bit. Do you want to read one of the letters or half a letter or something?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we could go through. The first one isn't that long. Or maybe I'll read the first one and maybe the second as well. So this is 1923. Oh no, 1920. From Christmas House, North Pole, 22nd December, 1920. Dear John, I heard you ask Daddy what I was like and where I lived. I have drawn me and my house for you. Take care of the picture. I am just off now for Oxford with my bundle of toys. Some for you. Hope I shall arrive in time. The snow is very thick at the North Pole tonight. Your loving Father Christmas. And he's writing in this kind of shaky hand, doing, because they're handwritten, they are like these sort of real custom made, like really like testing the limit of this like fantasy, right? The next one was in 1923, and this is also fairly short. North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1923. My dear John, it is very cold today and my hand is very shaky. I am 1924, no, 7 years old on Christmas Day. lots older than your great-grandfather, so I can't stop the pen wobbling. But I hear that you're getting good at reading, that I expect you'll be able to read my letter. I send you lots of love, and lots for Michael too, and lots bricks too, which are called that because there are lots more for you to have next year, if you let me know in good time. I think they are prettier and stronger and tidier than pick-a-bricks. What is this?
I think this is like the name of toys, right?
Yeah. It's like some kind of Lego. So I hope you will like them. Now I must go. It's a fine, lovely night. A lovely, fine night, and I have hundreds of miles to go before morning. There is such a lot to do. A cold hiss from Father Nicholas Christmas.
So the letters get longer and longer, and
yeah,
the later ones are like 3-4 pages.
Yeah, and this is a direct letter from him, but as things go on, these different characters get introduced. Like the polar bear is one of the
polar bear is the
characters.
best character, obviously.
Definitely, yeah. He's like this kind of lazy, kind of goofy, lumbering, but quite maybe kind of wise in a way. I don't know. Very lovable character.
Yeah,
and he writes in the letters with his own
in a different font.
own handwriting. And not just with a different font, but like he makes mistakes.
Yeah, he has
English
bad grammar.
And I was thinking about when I was reading that there was something. It was a section that I pointed out. This is from 1929. It says, "My paw is better. I was cutting Christmas trees when I hurt it. Don't you think my writing is much better too? Father Christmas is very busy already. Busy is B-I-S-Y. So am I. We have had heavy snow, H-E-V-Y, and some, S-U-M, of our messengers got buried, B-U-E-R-R-I-E-D, and some lost. That is why you've not heard lately. Y is W-H-I. I thought it was kind of cool, like the misspellings aren't like common English misspellings. They're kind of like, some of them are things that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah, and over the like 10-15 years, he consistently misspells the same words the same way. Which is, I imagine Tolkien must, have gone back to his old letters every year and be
exactly,
make sure that it's consistent.
Yeah, and you also get those like references in each letter from the previous year, like, last year I told you about this. So yeah, it gets progressively more complicated, and you slowly revealed this like kind of world where these gnomes live and elves, and they're all helping Father Christmas and these snow cubs, this little snow bear things and stuff, and they're all illustrated as well, which is quite cool. And the illustrations are quite charming. But
there's another interesting narrative thing going on with the bear, because as the letter will be written mostly by Father Christmas, and then the bear will interject in the letter as if he's writing it with him.
Yeah, or reading it after and like editing it.
Yeah.
So they're in the letters themselves, like in the borders of the letter and between lines, you see like little scribbles written by someone else.
So like one of the later ones has like a picture with Christmas trees, and it'll say like, here's a picture attached of the scene. The trees were drawn by the polar bear, so they're not very good. and then it's in the polar bear's writing. It says it's the best part.
It's so great. But it's really, I don't know. It's like there's so much joy in it. Like, yeah, I feel as well like as a for Tolkien as well. If dipping his toe into this kind of writing, you feel how, as like a writing exercise, doing something like that is like would be incredibly effective. Like, a great way of learning how to like, and also with a good purpose behind it too. And apparently, I mean, one of the reasons he wrote The Hobbit was for his children. Apparently,
do you know when that was?
I'll have a look now.
Yeah, because that's definitely before the Lord of the Rings. So we have this. He was already writing about goblins and all these different creatures, right? So
The Hobbit. Oh, The Hobbit was 1937. So it was.
Yeah, so it
about
was
in the middle of this. Because it ended in 1942.
It did, but I mean, he started talking about goblins much earlier than I guess he wrote.
Okay,
the
sure.
Yeah, so.
But I imagine he was drafting the whole thing for a very long time.
Right. So
he started writing Lord of the Rings between 1937 and 49.
Another interesting and kind of sad as I was reading it was how the children will grow up,
Yeah.
and so some letters will say like, oh, I saw like John stopped writing to me. But, like say hi to him for like.
Yeah, I hope he's hanging up his stocking.
Yeah, so I think it starts with John, and then it's John and Christopher maybe, or John and Michael.
Christopher.
I forgot if Christopher and Michael was first, but.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it might be Michael.
Okay.
And then it's Michael and Christopher, and then it's Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla.
Yeah.
And then it's Christopher and Priscilla, and the last like 8 or so are only for the girl.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I guess this will be like the last letter I'm sending you.
It's really quite sad at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, I was reading this from like 1 to 3 a.m. on my own, and I was going to get sad, like, she's all grown up.
It genuinely is like this sort of condensed like childhood, like you just read. Yeah, I was reading so this is like related to this whole thing as well, like the way that was described, this was like pure parental guilt tripping, like, and I so it's like sad, but it's also like the way that it's written about is like, oh, I would love to. I feel kind of sad not having received a letter.
Yeah,
it would be great if he sent a letter sometime, like the moral guilt tripping kind of thing, like.
But also the other way around, where he's like, we had all the storm this year, so we don't have a lot of money here at the North Pole. So you're not getting exactly what you wanted, but there's a lot of starving children, by the way. So.
Yeah, no, that was another thing. Yeah, and it was funny because it's like, growing up, those were exactly the same things that it told to me as well. Like, it was, I mean, I never had a problem finishing my food, but
yeah.
The whole like there are kids starving in Africa thing was you did hear that.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, so that kind of way of trying to what's the word? That way of trying to shape behavior in children or shape their thinking or making them do things.
Yes, although I will say, surprisingly, it didn't talk at all about like being nice or naughty or like.
That's true.
John, you didn't do this year, or like, which I wonder if that came later. Like, if that's maybe an American thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Because this is like,
but no, it was referenced in here. I think it was like Polar Bear was filling the presents with ice or something for the naughty kids. I think there was a reference.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll double check that, but it definitely wasn't like a central part, right?
Jamie, double check the polar bear.
Oh yeah, it says here. He is all right now. Talking about Polar Bear. I know because he has been at his tricks again, quarrelling with the snowman, and pushing him through the roof of his snow house, and packing lumps of ice instead of presents in naughty children's parcels.
Okay.
But it isn't as like naughty or nice.
He's never directly addressing the children.
Yes.
Like what they did this year, or if they
And if anything, there's the whole like, you are special. You children are like, I love you guys more than the other children kind of thing. There is like a couple references to those children being like the special ones.
Well, he also talks about his route, which is like from Norway to Denmark to like Germany and to Switzerland, back to Germany and to France and to the UK.
Yeah.
And it is very much like these like Christian European countries.
Yeah.
And like I'm definitely not going to China.
Yeah. I think he does mention Asia. I think
he's something like Christian children who moved to China and expect presents or stuff like that. So, but he has like a very, and I guess it goes to North America as well. But that's like mentioned in like a very side. Paragraph.
Yeah. New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, or China. Yeah. I mean, which is, obvious, especially at the time.
Right. And Tolkien was born in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
His father was I believe a banker.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was very like down to earth and domestic. Just like, you'd expect it if it's not something being published, but that like why don't you write to me anymore? Not as brutal as that, but that same kind of thing.
Okay, I want to talk about the goblins.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've got a couple. Can you pull up the 33 one?
Thing.
This is not the first mention of the goblins.
Mm-hmm.
But so basically, the goblins are these creatures who are living in these ice caves, and they're kind of mischievous and evil. And there's like a history of war between Santa Claus and the goblins.
Mm-hmm.
And the elves are on Santa's side.
Yeah.
And by the way, yeah, the word Santa is never mentioned, of course.
It's Father Christmas.
Yeah, it's Father Christmas. And the goblins are like playing tricks on the bear and stuff.
And they're trying to steal presents and stuff as well.
Can you? I think it's like the second paragraph or something in a 1933 letter. It's talking about the goblins.
Yeah, it says, "Goblins, the worst attack we've had for centuries. They've been fearfully wild and angry ever since we took all their stolen toys of them last year and dosed them with green smoke. You remember the red gnomes promised to clear all of them out. There was not one to be found in any hole or cave by New Year's Day. But I said they would crop up again in a century or so."
A couple points there. Okay, so first of all, I don't think Tolkien is the kind of writer who you would approach like a Kafka, where it's like, where's the parabola to real life, right? But I think definitely that real life, both current events as his own personal experience, obviously impacted what he writes in his stories.
Yeah.
So, Tolkien fought in World War One at the Somme against the Germans, and his children were later talking about how he would like mention some like traumatic experiences with the gas that was used first. So it's like literally talking about the goblins. It's 1933. Hitler just got elected.
Yeah.
The goblins are back. They're angrier than ever. We dosed them with the green smoke. The red elves, the Soviets, were like,
oh my god,
were like, they said they would dispose of them forever, but now they're back. Like, I was like, I'm not saying that this is like the obvious Nazi parabola, but I think there's definitely some influence there. Like, the green smoke is just too hilarious.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was quite famously like against he quite famously rejected any questions that his stories were like analogies for real life events, but they obviously do center around that. And like, you know, I think we spoke about this other night about Lord of the Rings, this idea of like ultimate evil.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, our like best conception of evil is the Nazis. I think, right. And you know, when that makes a lot of sense in that.
Yeah,
but no, sorry, go on.
Yeah, again, I don't think, like, if this was like Kafka's Trial or something, you know, we would kind of try to interpret what real life situation he's parodying or he's mirroring here. Whereas this goes the other way around, where it's like Tolkien had some experiences, but he is writing fiction for the sake of fiction. You know, we're not trying to interpret some kind of real life lesson out of this fiction.
Yeah.
We have a fictional world, and we can maybe speculate about where this input comes from. But I don't think it's particularly meaningful to like be like, okay, so the goblins are the Nazis, and these are
it's not. It doesn't have that much depth anyway.
That being said, I want to bring up like 4 more parts where the goblins are clearly the Nazis. So there's the 1935 one near the end.
Okay.
Near the end of that letter, they get mentioned again.
Who is this? He probably.
I think it's the second to last paragraph in the 35 one.
Second to last one. Yeah. He says that we have not seen the last of the goblins in spite of the battles in 1933. They won't dare to come into my land yet, but for some reason they are breeding again and multiplying all over the world. Quite a nasty outbreak. But there are not so many in England, he says. I expect I shall have trouble with them soon.
So yeah, this is like very, 35, Hitler's kind of ramping up the temperature. Then in 38,
out of prison.
The 38 letter, they reappear in the poem. So we can talk about the poem later as well.
Yeah. Let's see.
Near the end.
near the end of the poem.
I think so.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah. Where to start from? The goblins, you'll be glad to hear, have not been seen at all this year. Not near the pole, but I am told they're moving south and getting bold, and coming back to many lands, and making with their wicked hands new mines and caves, but do not fear, they'll hide away when I appear.
So, they're not appear just yet, but they're getting ready to move. So this is 38, this is 1 year before the war.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is just before the war. And then, so 39, so this is World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are, What do you want me to talk?
Can you find the goblin appearance in the 39 letter?
Where is it?
Haha, I should have coordinated this better. Got my little elf looking.
Yeah. I can't find any in 1939.
There's definitely one in 39. Oh no, maybe it's the polar bear's letter, because some of the letters there's usually 2 letters. There's one in October, November.
Yeah, there's only one in 39 though.
Okay,
it doesn't have. Is it in the picture maybe?
No.
Okay,
well,
the 39 one is the one with the bad trees.
Look at the 41 then. The 41. I'll look at the 39 one in a sec.
Okay, 41.
The 1940 letter.
Yeah.
It's talking about war with the goblins now. So we're straight up at war now.
It talks about an untrue story that polar bear had been captured by the goblins. I mean, he's talking about World War II here, but he's
as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite interesting, talking about evacuees, children going to the countryside and stuff, and the effect of the war on their stocks, their stocks of presents.
I believe in the 39 one, even if we can't find the place, it talks about how the goblins, they like taking the railroads most of all.
Yeah,
it talks about them stealing.
Talks
about them stealing presents. I was thinking out of all the presents, the railroads, and this is such a clear war thing, right? The Nazis controlling the railroads in Europe.
Exactly, taking the infrastructure.
Yeah.
In 1941 it mentions them again. It says, I expect to remember that some years ago we had trouble with the goblins, and we thought we had settled it. Well, it broke out again this autumn, worse than it has ever been for centuries. We have had several battles, and for a while my house was besieged. In November, it began to look likely that it would be captured, and all my goods, and that Christmas stockings would all remain empty throughout all over the world. And then he talks about, isn't it he blows the horn?
He blows a special weapon, and it also talks about the polar bear fighting the goblins.
Yeah.
The polar bear's favorite number is 1,000,000.
Yeah.
So Santa is there were at least dozens of them, and the polar bear is millions.
Yeah.
It's in brackets, he says millions because that's his favorite number.
Yeah. It's funny though. They're just talking about viciously murdering thousands of goblins.
Yeah, I think the children are probably about 12ish now, so they're it's a bit more haha, whack-a-mole kind of humor,
Yeah, but it's still interesting that there's this it's extermination, right? It's not you're not. The way that it's described, it's they live in these tunnels, they breed animals. Yeah, we have to smoke them out with gas. That kind of shit.
In one of them, they literally pour gas or something down the tunnel.
Yeah. Which is very different to Lord of the Rings, and the Hobbit, which is it's normally no one is, how do I say, the odds are much different. It's people fighting. It's more clear that it's a story where it's not necessarily about killing, or it's about destroying this powerful object, right?
Yeah.
Which happens to kill all the fucking goblins and shit, but it's not like it's not so emphasized, I don't think. And even today, I'm not sure if like, that kind of like storytelling is a bit like problematic, I guess. Like exterminate the
genocides, right?
Yeah.
They're bad creatures, so therefore get rid of all.
It's their species, their goblin.
Yeah. I mean, so why do you think? I mean, I think the parallel is it's kind of obvious, but I guess I was thinking why he would work that in. So maybe it's like a kind of way to explain to his children like that what's, there's this scary thing going on in the world. I mean, probably, people are probably talking about the war and like Hitler in Germany and what's going on.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is like his funny way of saying like, no, but the bear's gonna whack him. Like,
for sure.
It's gonna be all right.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, they'll like run away from Father Christmas. They'll have to answer to me.
Yeah.
And I think that would be like very psychologically like what's the word, like comforting for a child, have that kind of in their mind, like, oh, I've got a big brother polar bear, it's gonna fuck you up. But I do like that in the story for sure.
Okay, you said you had something or two things you wanted to bring up. There's the code as well.
Yeah, the code is kind of interesting.
So in one of the letters, the bear gets abducted by the goblins into their cave, and they found a bunch of like cave. It's basically like a writing system on the walls.
Yeah, and
they just give us like a whole page of like nonsensical letters, and then a couple of years later. I forgot how it's introduced, but I think the bear is like, oh, by the way, this is the translation, like this is the lettering system.
So
they explain
the alphabet.
It's like a letter key of the alphabet and the goblin language. And I did not take the time to decode the letter.
I didn't either. I decoded there was like one of the letters was signed off, the alphabet. When the alphabet was given to the children, it was signed off by Polar Bear, and it said like "Love from Polar Bear."
But they had that original like cave painting.
This is the code breaker.
This is the letter key, yeah. But they had. So if anyone is really into this, you can check the first
Tolkien definitely
the cave painting, and decode it with the key that we're giving later.
Yeah.
I did a quick Google search and there's actually a couple of like scientific theses on this, like people wrote their research papers on the goblin code.
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing about Tolkien. It's like Tolkienology or whatever it is. Like it's like an actual established pretty well established school. Like,
and I'm assuming he made languages as well for the elves and Lord of the Rings and stuff. So
he was all obsessed with like languages. Apparently he would even speak Elvish with his friends, and he would get angry if they didn't speak back. This is quite funny.
Yeah.
How much do you think this was done for Tolkien's own personal benefit? Like, the storytelling is with The Hobbit and with these, it's like always framed as for his children, but like as something, for yourself. Like,
I think the goblin language was not for the children.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's trying to like inspire them with something.
Maybe. I think he was just nerding out.
Yes, I mean that's for sure. Yeah,
but I think the drawings for sure, because they're quite effortful, and the like 9-year-old kids don't want to read the lead. Like he probably reads it to them.
Yeah.
And then they look at the pictures, and the pictures are quite. They're very nice, and you spend a lot of time clearly on them. So,
you really get the image of him in his study, like slaving away at these little paintings.
And although they're not bad, I don't get the feeling that he is like a super fulfilled artist, like painter.
No,
like,
no.
Like I think the pictures are clearly just for the children. So.
Well, I think that speaks to his like talent actually.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's not a painter, but he still has this like kind of vision, and he knows how he knows the form and all the kind of motifs and stuff. I love the like the borders and stuff that he makes, and the way that he like incorporates all these like traditional motifs. Looks very cool.
And if he's not happy with part of his drawing, he can just say the polar bear drawing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just really great. Yeah.
There's the elf secretary later.
Yes.
Ilfred or something like that.
I can't remember the name exactly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of
I was getting a bit lost why that Ilbereth.
Yeah.
I was getting a bit confused why that character was introduced.
Yeah, it wasn't really that impactful. First introduced in 1986.
Because he was kind of like outsourcing the letter. Like Santa was too busy to write the letter, so the elf took over that part for most of it.
Yeah.
But since Tolkien is writing the letters...
But I think that, like, again, that's like...
He's like covering his tracks.
Well, it's like... A lot of the letters in the beginning... It was a bit of a kind of damp start. Like, it was like, hey John, sorry, I haven't got much time this year. Sending my love. Hope you're doing okay. Got loads of presents. Bye.
Yeah.
And then later on, it was like, you know, they became more...
The Goblin War of 1927.
Yeah. I had to bring out the big horn and call the eagles. But, I mean, you know... What's more realistic than saying I don't have time, so my secretary has written the letter for me?
Right.
You know, what's more remissive than that? So, yeah, maybe it was kind of a bit disappointing at the beginning when you start reading it, and you're expecting these like
the first couple letters are
so half-assed, like,
and they're not even. I think it might be on purpose, but I think the first couple letters have quite a few like. Awkward like grammar. It's weird. Like you have like sentences that aren't technically sentences.
Right.
It's just
it
like
didn't stand out to me, but
it's like no time. Take care.
Sure.
That like
right.
And then the later ones are like more elaborate. I mean, it might also be that as the children grew up, they're able to comprehend more words and all that.
Partly, but I also think as well. There's more dialogue happening between them, right? So at the beginning, they're not writing letters and. Obviously, they're not going to be writing letters for the first few years of their lives anyway.
Right.
And then, you know, a lot of the letters are talking about the children and, like, you know, I heard about this thing and this and that and, like, your little bears and whatever. And, yeah, like, Father Christmas having these messengers and stuff is kind of cool. Oh, but so fucking bleak when, as World War II starts, he's like, I sent out my messages, but some of them haven't come back. I'm like, fuck. Kids are reading this like this
Goblins at it again with their smash it.
Basically, yeah. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, I came for the wholesome Christmas atmosphere, and I stayed for
the genocide.
I stayed for the World War II. Yeah, I mean, you can read it in about 2 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
It's quite short, but this is... I read a PDF, which is a bit, like, boring, but this is the kind of thing that would be really great to have, a paperback book. With with the original handwritten, like, format and everything.
And, you know, it's coming up to... Well, it's already past 1920, but you could do that 100-year delay... Read the letters every year that they come out.
Yeah.
That'd be quite fun. A nice way to enjoy it.
It did inspire me to write more letters.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned this before, but now that we're all graduating uni,
we'll
probably be further away. So, I want to write a nice letter every now and then.
Yeah, for sure.
Like on paper.
Definitely.
Have something that remains.
Yeah, spending the evening writing something. That's a nice way to do it.
Okay. Any more thoughts?
Let me see. Efficiency is the middle of the day.
Okay, while you're looking for that, Yeah, I would just recommend to read like 2 or 3 letters. Look at the pictures for yourself. It's not going to take more than 3 minutes.
And don't read them in order necessarily as well.
No, don't.
Just
Yeah,
read a random
yeah.
one. That's the best way to do it.
And yeah, it's quite endearing. And if I had children, I would definitely be tempted to do something like this.
I was thinking about like, you know, we said how, you know, the things the it changes as the kids get older, and assumedly because they're getting better at reading, right? But it's kind of interesting. Yeah, the letters become more complex as the children get older too, right? It's not just they really become, how do I say, like more. It's like it starts from something. So what I'm trying to talk about is like the belief in Father Christmas, and so, you know, there's always this like thing. You have kids, like, kid believes in Father Christmas. You play this myth and this like fantasy for a while, and then at some point the veil's lifted and they like realize that it's not true. But in this book, it's never really, you know, I think it references Priscilla being like 17 or something at the end of the book.
I don't know, at 17.
I think it was fairly old. Yeah.
I remember one of the letters said she's 9.5, but that was not toward the end, so you might be
well,
right.
it says in 1937, he says, this is addressed to Christopher and Priscilla. It says, I believe it is 17 years since I started to write to you.
But he started to write to only John.
Yeah, if it's well, he says Christopher and Priscilla. It's to my dear Christopher and Priscilla.
No, but if it's 37, it's 17 years ago. It would be 1920.
Yeah,
so yeah, so this is.
Yeah, true. And then John's out pretty early.
Yeah, John's out early. So
yeah, I wonder how old they were when they.
Right.
Yeah.
I think maybe about 14ish.
Let's find Priscilla Tolkien.
Yeah,
she was born in 1922, so yeah, she would have been 15.
It's quite a long time to. I wonder if she still believed near the end.
She 1943 she was still. 1943 she was still being sent letters, so she would have been 21.
What?
1943, yeah, born in 1922. Oh shit, no, 1929. Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm reading the wrong number. She was born in 1929.
So therefore she was
14.
14.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm spot on.
That makes sense. Good job.
I mean, yeah, I wonder how it went inside the family, because like John is like late 20s.
Yeah.
When she's getting the letters, so like when the first, like, John, Christopher, Michael, you know, when the first kid like basically woke up, when he like woke up in the Matrix tub, disconnecting the cables.
Yeah.
Fucking polar bear bullshit. Like, how was that? Like, was that awkward? You know, when.
Especially because you've lived this your whole life as well,
right?
Like you can totally imagine him just rolling his eyes whenever a letter comes out or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, I do wonder that as well.
Yeah,
it's
like they must have all been quite good sports to keep up the charade, I guess, to their younger siblings.
For sure, yeah. If they did, yeah. I guess 14 is probably back then at least the right kind of.
Yeah, there was no internet, so
exactly, yeah.
You couldn't like Google Santa Claus or anything. Is Father Christmas real?
Yeah. Maybe we should read the last one, or at least some of the last letter.
Yeah.
So yeah, Christmas 1943. My dear Priscilla, a very happy Christmas. I suppose you will be hanging up your stocking just once more. I hope so, for I have still a few little things for you. After this, I shall have to say goodbye, more or less. I mean, I shall not forget you. We always keep the old numbers of our old friends and their letters, and later on we hope to come back when they're all grown up and have houses of their own and children. My messengers tell me that people call it grim this year. I think they mean miserable, and so it is, I fear, in many places where I was especially fond of going. But I am very glad to hear that you're still not really miserable. Yeah, I wonder if he still went to Germany. Don't be. I am still very much alive and shall come back again soon.
No, let's not.
As merry as ever. There has been no damage in my country, and though my stocks are running rather low, I hope soon to put that right. Polar bear, too tired to write himself, so he says. Yeah, and it's like, give my love to the family.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry I don't have all the books you asked for this year, kind of thing. It's a sweet ending. I felt quite like emotional when I finished it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's all these little storylines that didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
At a couple of times he mentions his green brother.
Right, yeah.
Like, oh, I got this from my green brother.
Yeah.
And it's like, right.
Luigi.
Trademark.
The Snowman Gardener as well was a character we didn't hear much about.
Yeah, well, he died.
Did he die?
The snowman, they like dismembered him.
Oh shit.
I think quite near the beginning, he like. I think he done it to himself, but he like
committed suicide.
he melted or something, or he like dismembered himself,
hang on.
and then he was like, oh, but we used his ice to like make coffee, something like that. I don't know. They like ate him or something.
I mean, it says he quarrels with the snowman. Polar bear quarrels with the snowman in 1930, but after that he's not mentioned. Yeah.
I remember the snowman.
Oh, hang on. Yesterday he was snowballing the snowman in the garden and pushed him over the edge of the cliff so that he fell into my sleigh at the bottom and broke lots of things. One of them was himself. But I think he does come back, because it says...
I think they might have other snowmen.
Maybe, yeah. Suddenly the snowman, he wasn't broken then, rushed out in the garden. Maybe he is dead, yeah. Well, he's definitely dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you would like you would enjoy doing this kind of sort of fantasy exercise with your children?
I would, although I don't know if I had the patience to make up a language.
I mean, that's okay. You don't have to do that.
Or
I'm talking about like the function of like fantasy.
Or draw all the pictures, because like, man, the pictures must have taken so much time.
I'm not talking about the practical things.
I know.
Talking like.
Yeah, just the idea is very sweet, and I would do that. Yeah. Or something similar. I think the whole like. We have like the capitalist version where you like hire your neighbor for $10 to dress up as Santa.
Yeah,
and that just feels like deceptive,
right?
In like I don't know, not a super wholesome way.
Yeah, it's like Santa smells like cigarettes.
Yeah. Mrs. Claus has a hangover today. Yeah,
you kids gonna have to be quiet today.
But yeah, this was nice. I would like this, and I would have also enjoyed this if I was a child. I think. Yeah. Whereas if it's just my parents like telling me there's Santa Claus, and that's where the presents come from, and then I found out it wasn't, I would just kind of feel betrayed. Whereas this is like I wouldn't feel betrayed from this.
Yeah,
you know? I wouldn't. Yeah.
I think this reminds me of my cousins. I think they used to have like that.
We gassed him in a cave with the green smoke.
No,
not related to Christmas.
They used to do like leaving out like cookies and milk and carrots and shit, and they would leave them out, and then in the morning the carrots would be gone, and the cookies would be some crumbs on the plate, and the milk would be drunk, and like
Mr. and Mrs. Claus are going to use the carrot in the bedroom.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's kind of like bullshitty, deceptive image I have of like modern Santa Claus dress up.
Right. It's like
where this
perverted in some kind of way.
Well, yeah, where this is like actual, because they were like literally communicating with their father via letters, like in depth.
Right. It's probably using
and it's
surveillance as well.
and it's
you
all
tried this about me.
and a lot of them are signed with like with love, your father, Christmas.
Right.
And it's like very like
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you would reflect over when you're older and like, oh shit, you really fucking love this. Yeah. Yeah, it's a gift, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not it's not like deceptive in the same way, at least.
Also, whenever you think of this time and, family relations and Christmas and like the role of the father in the house, I always you always have this image, and I guess it's from stories I've heard from my own relatives of like, the father was the hard ass.
Yeah.
Like, if he wasn't drunk, like he was something else. And like for Christmas he would bring like a chocolate for each child.
Right.
If they complained, they would get whacked. So to have someone take this amount of time and effort for so long, like this, like you can just tell that he's like a real nice guy.
For sure, yeah. For sure. And I think you definitely get that, like, I don't know how much this connects up, but maybe good to think about, like his experience in the war and stuff. Like he when he was in Oxford, I think it was, or Cambridge, his like group of friends. This is when he was like first coming up with the Elvish language and stuff like that. He had this really close group of friends, and I think there was like maybe 5 or 6 of them, and like all but 1 or 2 of them like died in World War One. And this, like, the way it's sort of like, I don't know, the way people, the Tolkienologists or whatever describe it, it's like this had like a huge impact on his sense of like family and like brotherhood and those sorts of like friendship. Right. Well, friendship is the word, I think.
There's a lot of that like fighting camaraderie, I guess.
Yeah. And this, like, I don't know, I think he writes love really well, like this kind of like the relationship between Father Christmas and Polar Bear is like so well like communicated, and you really feel like they actually have this real like close bond, and they work together and they live together, and they have some kind of, I think it's really hard to do that, like really convincingly write that, like they have that relationship. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. I keep forgetting it.
What could it be?
Father Christmas is he's like a superhero in this book.
Right. He has magic.
Yeah, and at least when I was growing up, but he was never considered like a superhero, right? It was never like he has special power. I mean, I guess it's kind of, he does, but it was never like superhero in the traditional sense. But here it's like, I'm fucking up goblins, like I have this horn and this, like, I'm ready to go to war.
He literally has like guns in one of the letters.
Yeah. And the
polar bear is making bombs. This is one of the World War II polar bears making bombs in case the goblins come back. And like Priscilla, the youngest daughter, or the only daughter, she has like a stuffed teddy named Billy.
Yes.
And so the polar bear is like writing, I know you also have a bear at home, so I want to send you something for your bear. And it's like, I'm sorry I couldn't send him a bomb. Oh, I would have loved to send your Billy a bomb. Like there's this thing about bears, they just love bombs.
Yeah. That's cool. But I was the idea of like the superhero, or like this sort of like I don't know, this character that has like, is defending people and has this responsibility and whatever. Like we really don't think of Father Christmas in that way today, I don't think.
No.
He's not like a protector of anything. He just it's almost kind of like, the popular conception of Father Christmas is really kind of weak in a way, because it's just a guy. He just gives presents, and he doesn't have any skin in the game. It's like, in
a lot of movies or like cartoon depictions as well, we kind of get a sob story of this old man who's all alone in the North Pole, and like I've seen a couple movies like that where
there's Mrs. Claus or whatever, right? He lives with his wife,
which is not in this one, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
No Mrs. He is procreating with the bears.
The snow cubs. That's why he's got so many snow cubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap up this little Christmas present. Alright. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas from the Book Boys.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.
Boys.